August 29th, 1988. Dawn breaks over the Puyallup River in Pierce County, Washington. The sun hasn't fully risen yet. The air is cold. Two fishermen arrive at their favorite spot, hoping to catch something before the day gets started. They're regular visitors to this stretch of river. They know every bend, every pool, every place where fish like to hide. They're setting up their lines when one of them sees something in the water, something that doesn't belong. At first, he's not sure what he's looking at. Maybe debris, maybe trash someone dumped. But as his eyes adjust, he realizes what it is. A body, female, young, partially submerged in the cold, rushing current. Face down, hair floating. The fisherman calls out to his partner. They both stare. Neither wants to believe what they're seeing. One of them runs to the nearest payphone. Calls 911, his voice is shaking. Within 30 minutes, the riverbank transforms into a crime scene. Police cars arrive first, then detectives, then the medical examiner's van. Crime scene tape goes up, fluttering in the morning breeze. Photographers document everything from multiple angles. The location, the position of the body, the surrounding vegetation. The water depth. Every detail matters in a homicide investigation. Officers carefully extract the body from the water. It's difficult work. The current is strong. The rocks are slippery, but they manage. They lay her on the bank. She's young, maybe a teenager, maybe early 20s. She's fully clothed. No identification visible. No purse, no wallet. No way to know who she is. But in this moment, the detectives don't know what they're looking at. They don't know this case will haunt Pierce County for 36 years. They don't know this young woman's name won't be known for 2 months. They don't know the investigation will consume hundreds of hours and lead nowhere. They don't know the killer will live free for decades. Will get married. Will build what appears to be a normal life. That investigators will question him about the deaths of 2 other women years later. And that he'll die of natural causes 8 months before anyone discovers his name. This is the story of Tracy Whitney, an 18-year-old girl with dreams and plans who walked out of a Burger King one summer night and never came home. A family that refused to stop searching. That called detectives every single year for 3.5 decades. And one drop of DNA that would finally break open one of Washington State's most haunting mysteries. The twist? When they finally identified him, he was already in the ground, already cremated, already beyond the reach of earthly justice. Please take a moment to comment below with the city you're watching from. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notification bell to stay updated. For exclusives and other cool perks, you can join the channel. Link is in the description. Share the video with others. Stories like this must be heard. This is True Crime O'Clock. You're about to see how science, persistence, and a biological connection no one anticipated brought a killer to justice from beyond the grave. Stay with me. What comes next will shift everything you believe about cold cases and the limits of time and death itself. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something. When you watch cases like this, do you just listen or do you investigate? Because behind every name, every clue, every interview, there's a pattern most viewers miss, and detectives live by it. That's exactly what my new ebook, The Cold Case Code, reveals. It's not just about watching true crime, it's about thinking like the people who solve it. Inside, I'll show you the subtle habits, decoding frameworks, and psychological cues real investigators use to break through cases that seemed unsolvable for decades. If you've ever found yourself pausing a story to analyze the evidence, questioning timelines, or feeling like you could have spotted what others missed, this is your handbook. Click the link in the description and grab your copy of The Cold Case Code. Start watching every true crime story like a detective, not a viewer. Because once you see through the eyes of an investigator, you'll never see these stories the same way again. Before we talk about murder, before we dive into DNA and investigations, we need to talk about Tracy, because she wasn't just a name in a police file. She wasn't just a statistic. She wasn't just another unsolved homicide. She was a real person, a daughter, A sister, a friend, someone who laughed and cried and had hopes for the future. Tracy Whitney was 18 years old in the summer of 1988. 18, that age where you're not quite a kid anymore, but not quite an adult either. You're figuring things out, making mistakes, learning who you are. Tracy was navigating all of that. Her father, Ronald Whitney, remembers her as sweet, kind, a good kid, the kind of daughter any parent would be proud of. She wasn't perfect. Nobody is at 18, but she was loved. She was valued. She mattered. Tracy had friends. She had interests. She had a personality all her own. She loved music. She loved hanging out with people her age. She was figuring out relationships, like all teenagers do. Some worked out, some didn't. She'd recently broken up with a boyfriend. It wasn't easy, but she was handling it, moving forward. Looking ahead, she had dreams. Maybe she wanted to go to college. Maybe she wanted to travel. Maybe she wanted a career. We'll never know exactly what Tracy wanted for her future because that future was stolen from her. But we know she had plans. She had possibilities. Every 18-year-old does. The world feels wide open at that age. Every path seems possible. Every dream seems within reach. Tracy lived with her family in the Seattle area. She had a younger sister, Robin, who was 11 years old that summer. Robin looked up to Tracy the way younger siblings do. Tracy was the cool older sister, the one who knew things, who'd been places, who had experiences Robin was still too young for. The two sisters had their moments like all siblings, but there was love there, connection, a bond that would be tested in ways neither could have imagined. That summer of 1988 felt like any other summer. Long days, warm nights, friends hanging out, music playing. Nobody in the Whitney family had any sense that everything was about to change, that their lives were about to be divided into before and after. Before Tracy, after Tracy. August 28th, 1988, a Sunday night. Tracy makes plans to meet someone, her ex-boyfriend. They're going to talk. Maybe about getting back together, maybe about staying friends. We don't know exactly what the plan was, but Tracy heads to a Burger King in Federal Way, Washington. It's a public place, safe, neutral territory. Federal Way in 1988 is a bustling suburban area south of Seattle. It's not rural. It's not isolated. It's shopping centers and chain restaurants and residential neighborhoods. The kind of place that feels safe, where families live, where people go about their normal lives. The Burger King sits in a busy commercial area. Cars passing constantly, people coming and going. It should have been safe. Tracy meets her ex-boyfriend at the Burger King sometime that evening. Witnesses are there, other customers, employees. People will later tell police they saw Tracy and a young man arguing. The conversation looked heated. Voices were raised. You could tell they were upset with each other. Then Tracy walked out. She left the Burger King, stepped into the parking lot, and vanished. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. The last confirmed sighting. The last moment when Tracy Whitney existed in the normal world. After that, nothing, no phone calls, no contact with friends, no coming home, just silence. Most people hearing this story make an immediate assumption. Ex-boyfriend, argument, murder. It's the obvious conclusion. The statistics support it. Most women who are murdered are killed by someone they know, a partner, an ex, a family member. So police focus there first. It makes sense. But in this case, that obvious conclusion is wrong. Dead wrong. The man who killed Tracy Whitney wasn't her ex-boyfriend. He wasn't anyone she knew. He wasn't someone she dated or rejected or had any prior contact with. He was a complete stranger, a predator who happened to cross her path at the worst possible moment. Someone who saw an opportunity and took it. For 36 years, his identity would remain a complete mystery. Let's establish the scene. Federal Way, Washington in the late 1980s. It's a suburban area with easy highway access. Interstate 5 runs right through it. Seattle is 20 miles north. Tacoma is 10 miles south. It's the kind of place where people pass through constantly, where someone could blend in, where anonymity is easy. Tracy leaves the Burger King sometime that evening. We don't know exactly what time. Probably between 8 and 10 p.m. It's summer, so it's still light out. Or maybe dusk. She's on foot. She doesn't have a car with her. She's planning to walk or maybe catch a ride or take a bus. We don't know her exact plan, but we know she's alone, vulnerable. Somewhere between that parking lot and wherever she was headed, someone was watching. A predator. A man who looked at Tracy and saw prey. We don't know when he first spotted her. Maybe he was in the Burger King parking lot. Maybe he saw her walking down the street. Maybe he was driving and pulled over. We don't know what words were exchanged. Maybe he offered a ride. Maybe he asked for directions. Maybe he grabbed her without saying anything at all. But we know what happened next. He abducted her, took her somewhere. Maybe his car, maybe his home, maybe some isolated location. And there he did terrible things. He violated her. He assaulted her. He strangled her. He beat her. And when he was done, when she was dead, he disposed of her body in the Puyallup River like she was garbage, like she was nothing, like her life had no value. The Puyallup River flows through Pierce County. It's not a huge river, but it's substantial. Cold water, strong current in places. The killer knew the area. He knew where to dump a body. He knew the river would carry her downstream, would complicate the crime scene, would wash away evidence. He thought he'd covered his tracks. He thought he'd gotten away with it. And for 36 years he was right. The next morning, those two fishermen make their terrible discovery. August 29th, 1988, a Monday. The body is recovered near Sumner, Washington, several miles downstream from where she entered the water. She's clothed, jeans, a shirt, shoes still on, but there's no identification, no purse, no wallet, no driver's license, no way to immediately know who she is. Detectives photograph the scene from every conceivable angle. They collect evidence, fiber samples, soil samples, water samples, anything that might be relevant. The medical examiner arrives. The body is carefully placed in a bag, transported to the morgue. An autopsy is scheduled for the next day. The autopsy reveals the brutal truth. Cause of death, strangulation and probable smothering. The medical examiner finds petechiae in the eyes, small hemorrhages that indicate asphyxiation. There's evidence of blunt force trauma, bruising on the face, the arms, the torso. This girl fought. She tried to defend herself, but her attacker was stronger, more violent, more determined. The examiner also finds evidence of sexual assault. This wasn't a murder that happened during a robbery gone wrong. This wasn't a crime of passion between lovers. This was predatory sexual violence, calculated, brutal, the kind of crime that makes even seasoned detectives sick to their stomachs. And here's the detail that will matter 34 years later. The detail that will eventually solve this case. The medical examiner collects biological evidence. Sperm cells, male DNA, unknown male DNA. The killer left his genetic signature inside Tracy's body. In 1988, that evidence is carefully preserved, sealed, stored, but it can't solve the case. Not yet. The technology doesn't exist. DNA profiling is in its infancy. So the sample goes into an evidence locker at the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab. Carefully catalogued, properly stored, waiting. For 2 long months, the body remains unidentified. Jane Doe, unknown female, approximately 18 to 25 years old. Detectives release composite sketches to the media. Otis worked from photographs of the victim's face, trying to recreate what she might have looked like in life. Local news outlets run the story. Jane Doe found in Puyallup River. If you have any information, please contact Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Tips come in. People call saying she looks like someone they know. But none of the tips pan out. The leads go nowhere. Meanwhile, Tracy's family is frantic. She never came home that Sunday night. They call her friends. Nobody's seen her. They call the ex-boyfriend. He says she left the Burger King and he hasn't seen her since. They file a missing persons report. Detectives take the information, but missing persons cases are common. Teenagers run away. Adults leave voluntarily. Police can't treat every missing person as an emergency, so they wait. And the Whitney family waits. And days turn into weeks. Then in October 1988, 2 months after the body was found, there's a breakthrough. Dental records. A forensic odontologist compares the Jane Doe's dental work to missing persons records. and finds a match. Jane Doe has a name, Tracy Whitney, 18 years old. Last seen at a Burger King in Federal Way on August 28th. Detectives arrive at the Whitney home. They have to deliver the worst news any parent can receive. Your daughter is dead. She was murdered. We found her body in the river 2 months ago. Ronald Whitney collapses. Tracy's mother is hysterical. 11-year-old Robin doesn't fully understand what's happening. She just knows everyone is crying. She just knows Tracy isn't coming home. The investigation intensifies immediately. Now that they have an identity, they have a starting point. They have a timeline. They have people to interview. Detectives focus first on the most likely suspects. The ex-boyfriend. He was the last known person to see Tracy alive. They interview him extensively. Where did you go after she left? What did you do? Can anyone verify your whereabouts? The ex-boyfriend is cooperative. He provides an alibi. He went to a friend's house. Multiple people confirm it. Detectives check his car, his clothing. They find no evidence connecting him to the murder. No blood, no signs of violence. His timeline checks out. He's cleared. The obvious suspect isn't the right suspect. Detectives interview Tracy's friends, her family members, her co-workers, anyone in her orbit. They're looking for someone with a motive, someone who had a problem with Tracy, someone who might have wanted to hurt her. But they find nothing. Tracy had no enemies, no stalkers, no one who wished her harm. She was just a normal 18-year-old girl living a normal life. They investigate every tip that comes in, every phone call, every piece of information, no matter how small. They chase leads across Pierce County, across Washington State. They work the case hard, putting in hundreds of hours. But without a suspect to focus on, without someone to compare the DNA against, they hit a wall. Here's what the detectives understand even then. The killer isn't in Tracy's orbit. He's not someone she knew. He's a stranger, a random predator who saw an opportunity, which makes the case exponentially harder to solve. Because how do you find someone who had no connection to the victim? How do you identify someone when you have no idea who you're looking for? The DNA evidence sits in storage, carefully maintained, properly preserved. But in 1988, it's just evidence. It can't speak. It can't point to a name. It's waiting for technology to catch up, waiting for science to evolve, waiting for someone to invent the tools that will eventually unlock its secrets. Month by month, year by year, the case goes cold. The leads dry up, new cases come in. Detectives move on to other investigations. The media stops covering it. Tracy's murder becomes just another unsolved case file, just another name in the cold case database. And somewhere in Pierce County, a man goes about his daily life. He wakes up every morning, goes to work, comes home, has relationships, gets married, lives what appears to be a completely normal life, and nobody knows. Nobody suspects. He's a killer walking free. The Whitney family refuses to accept silence. Every year, Ronald Whitney calls the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Every single year. Sometimes multiple times a year. Any updates? Any new leads? Anything at all? He needs to know someone is still working on Tracy's case, that his daughter hasn't been forgotten, that someone still cares. For 36 years, Tracy Whitney's murder would haunt Pierce County. Her case file would gather dust but never be closed. Her family would age with the weight of unanswered questions. Her father would spend decades waiting for justice that seemed like it would never come. Her younger sister, Robin, just 11 years old when Tracy died, would grow up carrying an impossible weight. A weight that would shape her entire life. Let's talk about what it means to grow up in the shadow of unsolved murder. Robin Whitney was 11 years old when her sister was killed. 11, that's 6th grade. That's an age when you should be worried about homework and sleepovers and whether the boy you likes you back, not whether your sister's killer is walking around free somewhere. Robin's childhood ended the day Tracy died. She went from being a normal 11-year-old to being the girl whose sister was murdered. That became her identity. Not Robin Whitney, the person with her own interests and personality. Robin Whitney, the victim's sister. That label followed her everywhere. To school, to social events, to job interviews years later. People would find out and their whole demeanor would change. They'd get that look, that pitying look, and they'd say things like, "I'm so sorry, and that must have been hard." And Robin would have to smile and nod and say, "Yes, it was hard," and move on. But you can't really move on when the story has no ending, when the question remains unanswered. Who killed Tracy? Why? Where is he now? Is he still out there? Did he kill other people? Those questions haunted Robin throughout her childhood, through her teenage years, through her 20s and 30s and 40s. She couldn't escape them. They were always there, in quiet moments, in the back of her mind, in dreams that turned into nightmares. Robin later described feeling like she could never fully grieve, because grief requires an ending, a sense of completion. But how do you complete something that's unresolved? How do you move forward when the person who destroyed your family is still unknown, still free, possibly still dangerous? The Whitney family developed rituals around Tracy's memory. They visited her grave on her birthday, on the anniversary of her death. On holidays, they kept photos displayed in the house. They talked about her, remembered the good times, the funny moments, the ways she made them laugh. But underneath all those memories was a current of anger, of frustration, of helplessness. Ronald Whitney, Tracy's father, became obsessed with the case, not in an unhealthy way, but in the way any parent would. He read everything he could about homicide investigations, about DNA technology, about cold cases being solved. He stayed in regular contact with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. He made sure they never forgot about Tracy. He advocated for resources, for attention, for someone to keep working the case. Every few years, there would be a glimmer of hope. A detective would call and say they're taking a fresh look at the case. They're reviewing the evidence, running new tests, and the family's hopes would rise. Maybe this is it. Maybe this time they'll find something. But then weeks would pass, months, and the call would come. "We're sorry. We didn't find anything new." The case is still cold, and the cycle would repeat. Hope, disappointment, resignation, then hope again. Over and over for 36 years. It's a special kind of torture. Never knowing, never having closure. Always wondering if today will be the day they finally get answers. But here's what the Whitney family didn't know during all those years of waiting. The evidence was still there, still viable, sitting in a climate-controlled evidence locker at the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab, in a facility specifically designed to preserve biological evidence. That DNA sample collected in 1988 hadn't degraded, hadn't been lost, hadn't been accidentally destroyed. It was still there, still perfect, still holding the answer to their question, just waiting for technology to catch up. Let's talk about DNA. About the science that would eventually solve Tracy's case. Because understanding what happened next requires understanding why this case stayed unsolved for so long, and what changed. In 1988, DNA profiling was revolutionary but extremely limited. Scientists had figured out that every person has unique genetic markers, that you could theoretically identify someone from their biological material. But the practical applications were minimal. Police could collect DNA evidence. They could preserve it. But matching it to a suspect required having a suspect first. You needed someone to compare it against. It was like having a fingerprint but no fingerprint database. The evidence existed but couldn't solve crimes on its own. Then in the 1990s, something revolutionary happened. CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System. The FBI launched a national database where DNA profiles from crime scenes could be uploaded and stored digitally. More importantly, they could be automatically compared against DNA profiles from convicted offenders. If someone committed a crime and left DNA behind, then later got arrested for an unrelated crime, their DNA would be collected and entered into CODIS. The system would search for matches. Cold cases could suddenly be solved by computer. Killers who thought they'd gotten away with it decades earlier could be identified and arrested. It was a game changer for law enforcement. Across the country, cold cases started getting solved. Rapes from the 1970s, murders from the 1980s, cases where detectives had given up hope. Suddenly, CODIS would ping with a match and the case would crack open. In the mid-1990s, Pierce County detectives uploaded the DNA profile from Tracy Whitney's case into CODIS. They waited, hoping for a hit, hoping the killer had been arrested somewhere for something else, hoping his DNA was in the system. But nothing came back. No matches. The killer's profile wasn't there. They tried again in 2005. CODIS had grown significantly by then. Millions of profiles. More states participating, better technology. But still nothing. No matches. The killer had never been arrested for a serious crime. Or if he had, it was before DNA collection became standard procedure. Either way, he was invisible to the system, and that's where the case sat. The DNA evidence existed. It was viable. It was in CODIS, but it was useless without a match. Detectives had no other leads to pursue. No witnesses. No suspects, nothing. The case was completely cold, frozen. Tracy's family kept calling, kept hoping, but the detectives had nothing new to tell them. Year after year, the same answer: we're sorry. We haven't found anything until 2022, when everything changed. When a detective named Lindsay Kierkegaard made a decision that would finally bring answers to the Whitney family. When a new technology would crack open a case that had been unsolvable for 34 years. 34 years after Tracy Whitney was murdered. Detective Sergeant Lindsay Kierkegaard is reviewing cold cases for the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. She's a veteran investigator. She's seen hundreds of cases, solved many of them, but she's also seen the ones that never get solved. The ones that haunt detectives. The ones where families wait decades for answers that never come. Lindsay Kierkegaard isn't content with that. She believes every victim deserves justice. Every family deserves answers, even if it takes decades, even if the trail has gone completely cold. So she starts reviewing the oldest unsolved cases in Pierce County, looking for anything that might be solvable with modern technology. And Tracy Whitney's case catches her attention. The DNA evidence is still there. Still viable after over 3 decades. That's remarkable. Many older cases have lost their evidence. Files get misplaced. Evidence gets accidentally destroyed. Storage facilities flood or catch fire. But Tracy's evidence was properly maintained, carefully preserved, and in 2022 there's a new tool available. A technique that's revolutionizing cold case investigations. Genetic genealogy. You've probably heard of consumer DNA testing. It's become incredibly popular. Millions of people have done it. Companies like 23andMe and Ancestry.com and Family Tree DNA. You order a kit online. It arrives in the mail. You spit in a tube or swab your cheek. You send it back. A few weeks later, you get results. Information about your ethnic background, your ancestral origins, where your great-great-grandparents came from. It's fascinating, educational, fun. But the real power of these tests is in the connections they reveal. The database doesn't just tell you about your ancestry. It tells you about relatives, people you share DNA with, cousins you never knew existed, distant family members scattered across the country or around the world. The system can identify genetic connections going back generations. Third cousins, fourth cousins, even more distant relationships. And that's when law enforcement had a breakthrough realization. If these databases can identify family connections for ordinary people, they can identify family connections for criminals too. Here's how it works in criminal investigations. You take DNA from a cold case crime scene. DNA that's been sitting in evidence for 20 or 30 or 40 years. You create a genetic profile from that DNA. Then you upload that profile to a public genealogy database, where people have voluntarily submitted their DNA for ancestry research. The system searches for genetic matches, not exact matches, not the criminal himself. That would be too easy. Instead, it searches for partial matches, distant relatives who share some DNA with the criminal. Third cousins, fourth cousins, fifth cousins. People who share a common ancestor with the killer but have no idea they're related to a criminal. Once you find those distant relatives, you build a family tree. working backward from those cousins, using public records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, death certificates, census data, obituaries, social media. You trace the family lines back through generations, finding common ancestors. Then working forward again, following every branch of the family tree, generation by generation, until you narrow it down to the right person, the right age, the right location, the person who could have committed the crime. It's painstaking work, incredibly time-consuming. A single case can take months. You might build family trees with thousands of people, researching hundreds of potential suspects, eliminating them one by one, until you're left with just a few names, sometimes just one name, and that's when traditional detective work takes over. You investigate that person, run background checks, verify timelines, look for connections to the crime. And if everything lines up, you try to get a direct DNA sample, maybe from their trash, maybe from a coffee cup they discarded, something they touched. And if that direct sample matches the crime scene DNA, you've solved the case. This technique was first used successfully in 2018 to catch the Golden State Killer, a serial rapist and murderer who terrorized California in the 1970s and 1980s. Dozens of crimes, decades of investigation, and nothing. The case was completely cold. Then investigator Paul Holes uploaded the crime scene DNA to a genealogy database, built a family tree, and identified Joseph D'Angelo, a former police officer, living quietly in suburban Sacramento. They arrested him in 2018. He was 72 years old. He'd been free for over 40 years. That case opened the floodgates. Law enforcement agencies across the country realized they could use this technique. Hundreds of cold cases have been solved since 2018. Murders from the 1970s, rapes from the 1980s, abductions from the 1990s, cases that were considered unsolvable, cases where families had given up hope, suddenly solved by genetic genealogy. But it's expensive. It requires specialized expertise. Not every police department can afford it, which is why Detective Kierkegaard needed funding. In early 2022, she applied for a grant from the Washington State Attorney General's office. The grant was specifically designated for genetic genealogy testing on cold cases. Cases exactly like Tracy Whitney's. She wrote a detailed application, explained why Tracy's case was a good candidate, explained why the family deserved answers, and remarkably, she got it. The funding came through. March 2022, the DNA sample from Tracy Whitney's murder is sent to a specialized laboratory, one of only a handful of labs in the country that does this kind of work. A genetic genealogist begins the meticulous process. First, they create a comprehensive DNA profile from the 1988 evidence. Then they upload it to GEDmatch, a public genealogy database where users have opted in to law enforcement searches. The system searches for matches and finds them, distant cousins, people who share small segments of DNA with Tracy's killer, people who have no idea they're related to a murderer. The genealogist starts building family trees, starting with those distant cousins, researching their ancestors, finding marriage records from the 1800s, birth certificates from the early 1900s, census records, obituaries, anything that helps map the family connections. Weeks pass, then months. The genealogist is working through hundreds of potential connections, building trees with thousands of people. It's like assembling a massive jigsaw puzzle, except most of the pieces don't fit. Most of the branches lead nowhere, but slowly patterns emerge. Certain family names keep appearing, certain geographic locations. The genealogist starts to focus, narrowing down the possibilities. By August 2022, 5 months after starting, they have a name. John Gillo Jr., born in 1956, a longtime resident of Pierce County. The genetic genealogy analysis shows he's a high-probability match. The family tree lines up perfectly. He's the right age, the right location. Everything points to this one man. Detective Kierkegaard takes over from here. She runs a comprehensive background check on John Gillo Jr., and what she finds is absolutely chilling. This isn't just a random suspect. This is someone with a history, a pattern, John Guillot Jr. was questioned by police in connection with his girlfriend's death in 2010. The girlfriend died under suspicious circumstances. Guillot was investigated, but there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. The case went nowhere. Then in 2020, Guillot's wife died. Again, circumstances that raised questions. Again, police investigated. Again, no charges. The deaths were ruled natural or accidental. But detectives had their suspicions. Women around John Guillot Jr. kept dying. But he always had explanations, always walked away, always stayed free. Now Detective Kierkegaard is looking at him as Tracy Whitney's killer. She has probable cause based on the genetic genealogy. She has a pattern of suspicious behavior. She's ready to make an arrest. She just needs to confirm it with a direct DNA sample. She pulls up John Guillot Jr.'s current address, prepares to bring him in for questioning, and that's when everything changes. That's when she discovers the devastating truth. John Guillot Jr. is dead. He died in January 2022, 8 months before the genetic genealogy identified him. Just 8 months. If the grant had been approved sooner, if the testing had started earlier, if the genealogist had worked faster, they would have caught him alive. They could have arrested him, put him on trial, given the Whitney family their day in court. But they missed him. By 8 months, he was 65 years old when he died. The cause of death was cancer. He died in a hospital, possibly surrounded by family, possibly thinking he'd gotten away with it, that he'd taken his secrets to the grave, that nobody would ever know what he'd done to Tracy Whitney 34 years earlier. Think about that timeline. The killer they'd been hunting for 36 years had been alive the entire time, living in the same county where he'd murdered Tracy, living just miles from where her body was found, walking the same streets, shopping at the same stores, eating at the same restaurants, breathing the same air as Tracy's grieving family. And they had no idea. For 36 years, he lived free. For 36 years, he escaped justice. Imagine being Detective Kierkegaard in that moment when she discovers he's dead. You've spent months working this case, coordinating with genealogists, building family trees, researching records. You've finally solved a murder that's haunted your department for over 3 decades. You've got the answer the Whitney family has been desperately seeking. You've got the suspect's name. You're ready to make an arrest, to bring justice, to give a grieving family closure. And then you find out he's dead, already cremated, already beyond the reach of the criminal justice system. Most investigators would stop there, would close the file, would tell the family, we think we know who did it, but we can't prove it because he's dead. Case closed, but never truly solved. The family would be left wondering, is it really him? Are you sure? Or is this just your best guess? But Detective Kierkegaard isn't most investigators. She knows the family needs more than a probable suspect. They need certainty, absolute proof, scientific confirmation. And she realizes there might be one more way to get it, one more possibility. Because even though John Guillot Jr. is dead and cremated, he left something behind, something he couldn't erase, something that would seal his fate even from beyond the grave, a son. Let's talk about biology, about inheritance, about the things we pass to our children, whether we want to or not. Every human being inherits 50% of their DNA from their mother, 50% from their father. It's coded into every cell in your body from the moment of conception. You can't change it. You can't escape it. You can't erase it. Your father's genetic signature is part of you forever. That's just biology. That's just science. That's just truth, and that's exactly what Detective Kierkegaard was counting on. John Guillot Jr. had a biological son. But here's the twist within the twist, the complication that almost derailed everything. The son was also deceased. He'd died recently, just months after his father. If he'd been cremated like his father, the trail would end there. No way to confirm, no way to prove anything. The case would remain technically unsolved. But unlike his father, the son hadn't been cremated. His body had been buried, which meant tissue samples still existed, which meant DNA could still be extracted, which meant there was still a way to definitively prove John Guillot Jr. was Tracy Whitney's killer. One last chance to give the Whitney family the certainty they deserved. Detective Kierkegaard made the call. She contacted the medical examiner's office. explained the unusual situation. We have a deceased suspect in a 36-year-old murder. We have probable cause based on genetic genealogy, but the suspect was cremated. However, his son recently died and was buried. Can we exhume the son's body and extract DNA for comparison purposes? It's an unprecedented request, a legal gray area. There are privacy concerns, ethical questions. The son had nothing to do with the murder. He was innocent. Does law enforcement have the right to exhume his body without his consent? Without his family's consent? Just to solve a crime committed before he was born. But the medical examiner understood what was at stake. A family that had waited 36 years for answers. A case that could finally be solved. Justice that could finally be served, even if the killer was dead. The request was approved. Legal hurdles were cleared. Arrangements were made. The son's body was exhumed. It's not a pleasant process, but it's necessary. Tissue samples were carefully extracted, sent to the laboratory. A full DNA profile was created. Then came the moment of truth, the comparison. The son's DNA profile was compared against the 1988 crime scene DNA, the DNA that had been sitting in evidence for 34 years. The DNA that the killer left inside Tracy Whitney's body, and the match was undeniable, conclusive, scientifically irrefutable. The son's DNA showed he was the biological child of Tracy's killer, which meant John Gillo Jr. was Tracy Whitney's murderer. Not probably, not likely, definitively. The biological evidence was absolute. No jury in the world would question it. No defense attorney could argue against it. The science was clear. Detective Kierkegaard later stated on the record that if John Gillo Jr. had been alive, law enforcement would have had probable cause to arrest him for the murder of Tracy Whitney. That's not speculation. That's not a theory. That's a detective stating unequivocally that the case is solved. The mystery is over. The question has an answer. After 36 years, they know who killed Tracy Whitney. Now came the hardest part. The call Detective Kierkegaard had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure, telling the family, giving them the answer they'd been waiting 3.5 decades to hear. She picks up the phone, dials the number she has for Robin Whitney, Tracy's younger sister, now 57 years old, a woman who's lived her entire adult life not knowing who killed her sister. Imagine being Robin when that call comes. Your phone rings. You see, it's a number from the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Your heart starts racing. You've gotten calls like this before. Over the years, detectives checking in, saying they're reviewing the case, but nothing ever comes of it. You've learned not to get your hopes up. But still, every time the phone rings, every time you see that number, there's a flutter of possibility. Maybe this time. Maybe today, Robin answers. Detective Kierkegaard identifies herself. Says she needs to talk about Tracy's case. Robin's knees go weak. She sits down. And then she hears the words she's been waiting 36 years to hear. We know who killed your sister. We have his name. We have scientific proof. The case is solved. Robin later described the flood of emotions that hit her in that moment. Relief, finally, after all these years. An answer, certainty, no more wondering. No more questioning every strange man she passes on the street. No more lying awake at night imagining faces, creating scenarios. The unknown becomes known. The question becomes answered. But mixed with that relief is anger, rage, because Detective Kierkegaard has to deliver the rest of the news. The killer's name is John Gillo Jr., and he's dead. Died 8 months ago of cancer, peacefully, in a hospital bed. He'll never be arrested. Never be charged, never stand trial, never face Tracy's family in court, never answer for what he did. Robin feels cheated. Yes, she has the answer, but there's no justice, no punishment, no accountability. The killer got away with it, lived 65 years, had a full life, and died of natural causes, while Tracy got 18 years, while Tracy's family got a lifetime of pain and unanswered questions. And underneath the relief and anger is something else. Emptiness. Because knowing doesn't bring Tracy back. Doesn't erase 36 years of grief. Doesn't restore what was stolen. The hole in the family remains. The loss is still there, The pain doesn't go away just because you finally have a name. Detective Kierkegaard tells Robin everything about the genetic genealogy, about building the family tree, about identifying John Guillot Jr., about his death, about the son's DNA, about the conclusive match. She answers every question Robin has. She's patient, compassionate. She understands this is overwhelming. Robin asks to see photos of John Guillot Jr. She wants to see the face, the man who destroyed her family. Detective Kierkegaard sends them. Robin stares at the images. An older man, balding, unremarkable. He looks like anybody, like someone you'd pass in a grocery store without noticing. And this ordinary-looking man killed her sister, took her life, and walked free for 36 years. Detective Kierkegaard calls Ronald Whitney next. Tracy's father. He's in his 70s now. He's been waiting for this call since 1988, waiting to know who killed his daughter, waiting for justice, waiting for closure. When he hears the news, he doesn't say much, just listens, asks a few questions, then goes quiet. Later, he tells reporters he feels an empty feeling, relief mixed with disappointment. He knows who did it, but the man is dead. There will be no trial, no justice, just a name. The Whitney family gathers. They talk, they process, they cry, they rage. They try to understand what this means. They finally have their answer, after 36 years. But the answer brings its own complications, its own pain. Justice denied by 8 months, by cancer, by death. But here's what the Whitney family decides. The answer matters. The truth matters, even if there's no trial, even if there's no punishment. Knowing is better than not knowing. Having a name is better than having questions. This is closure. It's not the closure they wanted, but it's closure nonetheless. And they decide to go public, to tell Tracy's story, to make sure people know that cold cases can be solved, that families should never give up hope, that science is advancing, that justice can come even decades later, even after death. Now let's talk about John Guillot Jr., the man himself, because he's not just a name on a police report. He was a real person who lived a real life. And understanding who he was helps us understand how he got away with murder for so long. John Guillot Jr. was born in 1956 in Washington State, grew up in the area, stayed in Pierce County his whole life. He had jobs, worked in construction, maybe other trades, nothing fancy. Blue-collar work. He wasn't wealthy, wasn't prominent, just an ordinary guy living an ordinary life. He had relationships, got married at some point, had that son whose DNA would eventually expose his crimes. From the outside, he looked normal, unremarkable, the kind of person who blends into the background. Your neighbor, your coworker, someone you'd never suspect of violence, but behind that ordinary facade was something dark, something predatory. In 1988, when he was 32 years old, he spotted Tracy Whitney. Maybe he'd been looking for a victim that night. Maybe he saw an opportunity and took it. We'll never know what was going through his mind, but we know what he did. He abducted her, assaulted her, murdered her, disposed of her body, and then went back to his normal life. Did he feel guilt? Did he lose sleep? Did he think about Tracy? Or did he compartmentalize, push it down, convince himself it never happened? That's the terrifying thing about predators. Many of them can live double lives. One face for the world, another face in private, and they're very good at keeping those faces separate. After Tracy's murder, John Guillot Jr. continued living in Pierce County, the same county where the crime occurred, where the investigation was happening, where police were actively searching for Tracy's killer. And he just kept living, going to work, coming home, existing, knowing what he'd done, knowing he'd gotten away with it. Years passed. The investigation went cold. The media stopped covering it. And Guillot Jr. probably thought he was safe, probably thought he'd escaped. DNA technology existed, sure, but his DNA wasn't in any database. He'd never been arrested for anything serious. As long as he stayed off law enforcement's radar, he was invisible. Then in 2010, something happened. His girlfriend died. The circumstances were questionable enough that police investigated. They interviewed Guillot Jr., looked into the relationship, tried to determine if there was foul play, but they couldn't prove anything. The death was ruled natural or accidental. Guillot Jr. walked away, Again, 10 years later in 2020, his wife died. Again, questions were raised. Again, police investigated. Again, they interviewed Guillaume Jr. And again, they couldn't prove anything. No charges were filed. Guillaume Jr. was free again. 2 women dead, both romantically involved with Guillaume Jr., both deaths suspicious enough to warrant investigation, but not suspicious enough to result in charges. Pattern or coincidence? We may never know for certain. But Robin Whitney believes her sister wasn't Guillaume Jr.'s only victim. She believes those 2 women were murdered too. And she's probably right, but here's the thing. Even if Guillaume Jr. killed 3 women, he was never punished for any of it. Never spent a day in jail. Never faced trial. Never had to answer for any of the lives he took. He died a free man, in a hospital bed, with family around him. That's the painful reality. That's what makes this case so complicated. There's an answer but no justice. Truth but no accountability. In January 2022, John Guillaume Jr. died of cancer. He was 65 years old. He'd lived 25 years longer than Tracy did. He got to experience things she never would. Career, marriage, middle age, retirement, all the things he stole from her. And then he died, thinking he'd gotten away with it. Thinking his secrets died with him. But he was wrong. 8 months after his death, genetic genealogy identified him. His name was publicly released. His face was shown on the news. His crimes were exposed. His family learned the truth about what he'd done. His legacy became one of violence and murder. He didn't escape. He just delayed the reckoning. And that brings us to a bigger question. A philosophical question that this case forces us to confront. What is justice? Is it punishment? Is it a trial and a verdict and a prison sentence? Or is it something else? Is it truth? Is it exposure? Is it the world knowing what someone did? Because here's what happened to John Guillaume Jr. He escaped earthly justice, but he didn't escape truth. His name is forever connected to Tracy Whitney's murder, forever marked as a killer. His family knows. The community knows. The world knows. And that matters. Truth matters. Even if it comes too late for traditional justice. For the Whitney family, this is the justice they get. Not a trial, not a prison sentence, but certainty, a name, scientific proof. And the knowledge that the world knows what John Guillaume Jr. did, that his crimes are no longer hidden, that Tracy's story is no longer an unsolved mystery. She has justice, just not the kind anyone hoped for. In late 2023, the Pierce County Sheriff's Department formally closed Tracy Whitney's case. The official designation, cleared exceptional, death of offender. That's the status used when a suspect is identified beyond reasonable doubt but cannot be prosecuted due to death. It's not an arrest, it's not a conviction, but it's an official resolution. The case is solved. The killer is named. The investigation is complete, but Robin Whitney isn't stopping there. She's not content with just having the answer. She wants to make sure John Guillaume Jr.'s crimes are fully investigated. She wants to know if there are other victims, other families waiting for answers, other cold cases that might be connected to him. That's why Robin is now actively campaigning to have John Guillaume Jr.'s DNA profile entered into CODIS, the National DNA Database. Right now, his profile exists in case files connected to Tracy's murder. But it's not in CODIS, which means it can't be automatically compared to other unsolved cases. Other crime scene DNA, other potential victims. Robin believes there are more victims. She believes the 2010 girlfriend death and the 2020 wife death weren't accidents. She believes Guillaume Jr. was a serial predator who operated for decades. And the only way to find out is to put his DNA in CODIS, to let the computer search for matches, to see if his genetic signature appears at other crime scenes, other unsolved cases, other families waiting for answers. But here's the problem. CODIS has restrictions, rules about whose DNA can be entered. Typically, it's convicted offenders, people who've been arrested and charged. Guillaume Jr. was never arrested, never charged. He's dead, and deceased suspects aren't usually added to the database. There are privacy concerns, legal questions, policy restrictions. So right now, there's a battle. Robin Whitney advocating for the profile to be entered. Law enforcement understanding her concerns, but dealing with legal constraints. Privacy advocates raising questions about adding deceased people's DNA without consent. It's complicated. There are valid arguments on multiple sides, but the question remains. Do other families have the right to know if Guillot Jr. is connected to their cold cases? Robin believes they do, and she's fighting to make it happen. Let's zoom out again. Look at the bigger picture. Because Tracy Whitney's case isn't just about one solved murder. It's about a revolution in criminal justice. Genetic genealogy is changing everything we thought we knew about cold cases and the limits of investigation. Since 2018, when it was first successfully used to catch the Golden State Killer, genetic genealogy has solved hundreds of cold cases across the United States. Murders from the 1970s, rapes from the 1980s, abductions from the 1990s, cases that detectives had given up on, cases where evidence had gone cold decades earlier, suddenly solvable through this new technique. The process is the same in every case. Take old DNA evidence, upload it to a public genealogy database, find distant relatives, build family trees, narrow down suspects, confirm with direct DNA. It's methodical, scientific, and remarkably effective. Success rates are high. When there's viable DNA and enough relatives in the database, cases get solved. But it's also raising profound questions. Questions about privacy, about consent, about the proper role of law enforcement, about what rights individuals have over their genetic information. These aren't easy questions. There are no simple answers, and society is grappling with them in real time. Here's the privacy concern. When you submit your DNA to a genealogy website, you're making a choice about your own genetic information. You're consenting to having your data analyzed and shared, but you're also potentially exposing your entire family. Your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your distant relatives, people who never consented to anything. And law enforcement can use that data to investigate those relatives without their knowledge. Is that fair? Is that right? Is that an invasion of privacy? Or is it simply good detective work using publicly available information? The answer depends on your perspective, on your values, on what you think matters most, privacy or justice, individual rights or public safety. If you're a victim's family member, the answer is clear. Genetic genealogy is a miracle, a gift, a tool that finally gives you the answers you've been desperately seeking. The privacy concerns seem abstract compared to the very real pain of not knowing who killed your loved one. You don't care if someone's fourth cousin didn't consent to their DNA being used. You care about justice, about truth, about closure. But if you're a privacy advocate, you see it differently. You see a world where your genetic information can be used by law enforcement without your permission. Where submitting your DNA for fun ancestry information could lead police to investigate your relatives. Where private companies share data with government agencies. Where the line between voluntary and compulsory keeps shifting, and both perspectives are valid. Both concerns are real. This is genuinely complicated territory. Society hasn't figured out where the boundaries should be. Courts are still deciding what's legal. Legislatures are still debating what should be regulated. We're in the middle of this conversation, not at the end. For the Whitney family, the debate seems academic. They lived 36 years without answers. They suffered through decades of not knowing. They made thousands of phone calls to detectives. They attended support groups for families of unsolved homicides. They aged with the weight of unresolved grief. And genetic genealogy finally gave them what traditional investigation couldn't: an answer, a name, closure. They don't care about the ethical complexities. They care that someone finally used available tools to solve their daughter's murder. To give them the truth, to let them move forward. That's what matters to them. And it's hard to argue with that when you see the pain they've endured. But the questions remain, and they're important. Because genetic genealogy isn't going away. It's only going to become more common, more sophisticated, more powerful. Already, there are discussions about expanding its use. about creating dedicated law enforcement genealogy databases, about requiring genealogy companies to cooperate with investigations, about mandating DNA submission for certain populations. Where does it end? What are the limits? What protections should exist? These are questions society needs to answer, thoughtfully, carefully, with input from multiple perspectives. Because the technology is here, the genie is out of the bottle, and we need to decide how to use it responsibly. Tracy Whitney was 18 years old when she died. She should be 54 years old today. She should have had a full life, career, maybe marriage, maybe children. Definitely experiences and memories and moments of joy. All of that was stolen from her on August 28, 1988, by a stranger. A predator, a man who saw her as prey, who thought he could take her life and walk away unpunished. For 36 years, he was right. He did walk away. He did live free. He did escape accountability. But he didn't escape truth. And that's what this case proves. That truth has a way of emerging, even decades later. Even after death, even when it seems impossible. John Gio Jr. thought his secrets died with him. Thought cremation would erase his crimes. Thought he'd gotten away with murder. But biology doesn't lie. DNA doesn't forget. Science doesn't care how much time has passed. The evidence was there, waiting. And when technology finally caught up, his crimes were exposed. That's the power of preserved evidence. That's the power of families who never give up. That's the power of detectives like Lindsay Kierkegaard, who believe every victim deserves justice. That's the power of genetic genealogy. Truth delayed but not denied. Robin Whitney said something profound after learning her sister's killer's name. She said she finally felt like she could stop being the girl whose sister was murdered. She could just be Robin, a person with her own identity, her own life, not defined solely by tragedy. Not carrying that label everywhere she went. That's what knowing did for her. It released her from 36 years of being defined by an unanswered question. That's what justice looks like in this case. Not a courtroom drama, not a jury verdict, not a life sentence, just a name, just truth, just the ability to finally move forward. It's not the justice anyone hoped for, but it's the justice they got. And after 36 years of nothing, it's something. It's closure, it's peace, it's an ending. This case also proves something else, something important for every family with an unsolved case. Evidence matters, preservation matters. Every piece of biological material collected at a crime scene could be the key to solving that case someday. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but someday, when technology advances, when new techniques become available, when the right detective takes a fresh look. That DNA sample collected in 1988 seemed useless for decades. It sat in storage, couldn't solve the case, couldn't identify a suspect, just evidence with no application. But it was preserved properly, stored correctly, maintained carefully, and 34 years later it became the answer, the key that unlocked everything. If that sample had been lost or degraded or destroyed, Tracy's case would still be unsolved. The Whitney family would still be waiting. John Gio Jr.'s crimes would still be hidden. But because someone did their job right, because evidence was treated with care, because protocols were followed, justice eventually came. That's the lesson for law enforcement. Preserve everything, store everything properly, follow protocols exactly. You don't know which case will be solved in 5 years, or 10 years, or 30 years. You don't know which piece of evidence will crack open an investigation decades from now. So treat every case like it matters, because it does. To someone, to a family waiting for answers, this is the story of Tracy Whitney, a girl who deserved better, who deserved to live, who deserved to grow old, but whose life was cut short by violence. A family that refused to give up, that called detectives every year for 36 years, that kept Tracy's memory alive, that demanded answers even when answers seemed impossible. This is the story of Detective Lindsay Kierkegaard, an investigator who believed cold cases aren't closed cases, who sought funding, who pushed for genetic genealogy testing, who didn't stop when the suspect turned out to be dead, who found a way to provide the family with certainty. with scientific proof, with closure. This is the story of genetic genealogy, a revolutionary technique that's solving cases once thought unsolvable. That's giving families answers after decades of silence. That's proving time doesn't erase guilt, that biology is permanent. That truth eventually emerges, and this is the story of John Guillot Jr., a killer who thought he'd escaped, who lived free for 36 years, who died thinking his secrets were safe, but whose DNA told the truth he never would have told, whose crimes were exposed even from beyond the grave, whose name is now forever linked to murder. Cold doesn't mean forgotten. A cold case isn't a closed case. It's a case waiting for technology to advance, waiting for the right detective to take another look, waiting for evidence to be re-examined with new tools. And somewhere right now, there's another family waiting, another unsolved murder, another piece of DNA in an evidence locker, another case that could be solved tomorrow, or next year, or 10 years from now. If you want to see more cases like this solved, share this story. Let people know that cold cases can be solved, that families can get answers decades later, that giving up is never the only option. Comment below with your thoughts on genetic genealogy. Is it a tool for justice, or does it go too far? Should privacy concerns limit its use, or should solving murders take priority? These are real questions that society needs to answer. And if you're in law enforcement, remember Tracy's case. Remember that preserved evidence can solve cases decades later. Remember that grants and funding for cold case investigations matter. Remember that families never stop hoping, never stop waiting, never stop calling. They deserve detectives who believe their cases can still be solved, who are willing to try new techniques, who won't give up just because time has passed. If you're a family member waiting for answers about your own unsolved case, take hope from Tracy's story. Your case isn't forgotten. As long as evidence was preserved, there's hope. Science is advancing every day. Genetic genealogy is solving more cases. More families are getting closure. Your answers might be coming. Don't give up. Keep calling. Keep pushing. Keep demanding that your loved one's case stays active. Because persistence matters. Advocacy matters. Families who won't accept silence matter. Tracy Whitney. Born 1970, died 1988, 18 years old. A life full of potential cut impossibly short. A family that grieved for 36 years without knowing why, without knowing who, without having closure or answers or peace. But now they know. John Guillot Jr., identified through genetic genealogy in 2022. Case officially closed in 2023. A killer exposed even in death. Truth emerging even decades later. Justice that looks different than anyone hoped, but justice nonetheless. And the legacy is just beginning. Because every time a cold case gets solved through genetic genealogy, Tracy's story matters. Every time a family gets answers after decades of waiting, her case paves the way. Every time evidence preserved in 1988 or 1975 or 1962 solves a murder, her legacy grows. She's part of a revolution in criminal justice, part of proof that time and death don't erase accountability, part of hope for every family still waiting. This is True Crime O'Clock. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more solved cold cases and stories of families who finally got their answers. Turn on notifications because cold cases are being solved every month now. The next breakthrough could be tomorrow. The next family getting closure could be announced next week. And you'll want to know about it. You'll want to celebrate with them. You'll want to be part of this revolution in justice. Thank you for watching Tracy Whitney's story. Thank you for caring about cold cases. Thank you for supporting families who wait decades for answers. Tracy mattered. Her life mattered. Her story matters. And now, finally, the world knows what happened to her. Finally, her family has peace. Finally, her killer is named. John Guillot Jr. can't escape truth, can't escape exposure, can't escape being remembered as the man who murdered Tracy Whitney. That's his legacy now. That's what he'll be known for forever. And Tracy's legacy? A girl who deserved better, a family that never gave up, and a case that proved cold doesn't mean forgotten. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.